Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we got another review. Today we're going to be reviewing this 1934 Ford Model 40 three-window coupe. So right off the bat, I'm sure you guys could tell, but this car is just like an absolute work of art. It's basically, 100% custom. I don't think there's anything on this car that's pretty much like super original. Now, some people really like original cars. Some people like really custom cars. Honestly, in my own personal opinion, I like this kind of car a lot more because it's custom built. It's the, owner's own. It's very unique. It's one of a kind. And this car specifically actually took the owner just about 10 years to fully build. So yeah, like I just said, this specific car is definitely completely different than an original Ford Model 40. But that being said, I am just going to kind of name off, some facts or some, specs about this specific car when it was brand new in 1934. So back in 1934, this car's original MSRP, so it basically sold right around like $500 to $600 depending upon the dealership. That's kind of interesting just because, this car is a piece of history. It is just kind of funny to think that, cars back then, brand new cars like this one, sold for that type of money. So another couple stock specs that I did want to mention before I get into this specific car. So the 1934 Ford Model 40, had a stock factory length of 183 inches, a height of 68 inches, a front track of 55.2 inches, and a rear track of 56.7 inches. Now, the stock curb weight for this model car was actually just around 2,500 pounds at 2,540 pounds. Now, this specific car is actually, it has a completely fiberglass body, and it's, even though it does have a bigger engine in it, which we will get to in a second, it actually is lighter than, 2,500 pounds. The owner says he believes it's right around like 2,300 to 2,400 pounds. So before we move on, one thing that I did want to mention about the body as well, which is unique to this car, is that this car is actually finished in House of Colors black cherry metallic paint. Now, it again, on camera, I don't know how it looks like, but most of the time when it's in shade, it does kind of look black. But if you if you get up close, and again, I don't know how this is going to come out on camera, but if you get close and kind of get in the sun, you can see the red slash, you know, cherry metallic, and it does look really, really cool, because again, you can only kind of see that dark red color in there at certain points. Another thing too is that there are these copper ghost flames on the side. On each side of the vehicle, you have a set of ghost flames up here, as well as ghost flames down here. Another really cool detail on this exterior is that right here, the owner is actually a huge fan of Hot Wheels. He's been collecting them since he was a kid. And he basically explained it to me that this sticker was actually on the Treasure Hunt Edition, all Treasure Hunt Edition Hot Wheels, which basically, like, the rarity, I actually didn't know this before speaking to the owner, but basically the rarity for, like, kind of like the collectibles, you have like the regular Hot Wheels, and then you have the Treasure Hunt Hot Wheels, and then you have the I believe Super Treasure Hunt Hot Wheels, or Rare Treasure Hunt Hot Wheels. And as you can see, this sticker is actually, it's silver, so that means that this car is a, you know, treasure hunt car kind of. But the gold stickers actually are those gold emblems represent the super rare treasure hunt cars. So moving on, I'm going to be talking about the suspension for this car a little bit. Now the suspension is very, very unique. Actually, basically the entire front end is out of a Mustang 2. It has Mustang 2 disc brakes in the front, as well as, again, the suspension is basically right out of a Mustang 2. Now in the back, it actually does have a 4 9-inch rear with you know, posi traction or a limited slip differential with 355 gears. Now the 9-inch rear is actually out of a taxi, the owner said. He found that out after he got it, which is, again, kind of cool. And also in the back, it does have disc brakes out of a Lincoln Versailles. So there is disc brakes all the way around, and the suspension is worked and it is tuned to how the, you know, owner wants it. Another thing he said is that he actually runs 22, I believe, yeah, 22 psi in all 4 tires around, and he said that honestly that makes up most of how this car handles, because if he runs more air, it's just so lightweight, and with the power that it does have, it just burns rubber. I mean, it burns rubber everywhere anyway, but again, if it had more air in the tires, it just would not have any traction at all. So speaking about tires, I am going to move on to the wheel setup that this owner has on his car. Now, at first glance, they might look like all 4 wheels are exactly the same, but actually they are, I guess, I don't know if you call them a staggered setup because they are the same size, but they are different wheels in the front and back. So now taking a look at the front first, they are Billet Specialties 15x6 wheels wrapped in BF Goodrich tires. You have 205 by 60, excuse me, by 15 in the front. And in the back, you have Krager wheels, actually, that they are chrome. I know the front ones are chrome as well, but these do shine a little bit better. And the owner says they are, like, I guess, a little bit easier to clean. But anyways, these Krager wheels, they're basically 15 inches by 8, I believe. And they are wrapped in, again, BF Goodrich tires, 235 by 70 by 15s. Now, one thing that this owner did want to replicate when putting these wheels on his car were basically the Halibrin style, or Halibrin-esque, I should say, kind of like replica wheels, where this part is kind of like the one center piece that holds the wheel in there. Now, this is kind of from like the 50s and 60s Indy cars, he said, and just racing cars in general, because basically they'd go into the pits and the crews would just spin that and the entire assembly would come off. But these are in fact replicas. Now underneath the center cap on both sets of wheels, there are lug nuts, but again, it just is a pretty cool touch that if you don't really know the history of the cars that well, you're not really going to pick up on. But I actually only noticed it because I am a fan of the old, like the original 427 Cobras and the GT40s and, you know, stuff like that. And if you actually watch the movie they just came out with, Ford vs Ferrari, you can kind of see that those styles of wheels and how it was kind of revolutionary at the time, because it was literally just one spin and the entire wheels just came right off. All right, guys, so before we We do have the hood popped on this car, but before I actually show you the engine that's in it currently, I did just kind of want to briefly mention some stock numbers that actually came in the original 1934 Ford Model 40. So originally this car actually came with a 221 cubic inch or 3.6 liter V8 90-degree L-head engine that only produced 85 brake horsepower at 3,800 RPMs and 150 foot-pounds of torque at 2,200 RPMs. So now that being said, obviously the same engine is not in this car. What is currently in this car is actually a 383 stroker small block Chevy with, actually the owner just had a Phytech fuel injection system in it that was rated for 600 horsepower, like an easy street fuel injection system on it. Now when he first built it, it was carbureted, and then he put the fuel injection on it, and now he actually put the carburetor back on it because the fuel injection was giving him a lot of trouble. When this owner did buy this crate engine, the power numbers are basically which is basically what it's making right now. It's 396 foot-pounds of torque and 325 brake horsepower. So again, and something that is 2,400 pounds. I know those numbers might not seem too impressive, but it's pretty much like having, I don't know, like maybe like a 500, 600 horsepower Mustang or Camaro. So yeah, I mean, it's 2,400 pounds. Actually, I could be wrong. That kind of comparison could have very much been wrong, but still, 2,400 pounds, just under 400 horsepower. I mean, it definitely moves. Now the transmission that is actually in this car is actually a 700R4 transmission. So a 4-speed transmission. It's automatic. It has basically, you can shift it in a first, second drive and overdrive. And again, like I said before, it does have the Ford 9-inch rear in the back with the 355 gears with, you know, limited slip differential. All right, so now if we look down, you can see that the owner actually has Sanderson block huggers headers on it. I don't know why that's a tongue twister for me, but yeah, after the headers, it's basically, obviously, you know, no cats. You don't need cats on something like this. You don't need an inspection or anything like that. And the exhaust is basically completely custom fabricated by the owner. And one other thing that I did want to mention before I get into the interior of this car is that if you look on that side, I don't know if you guys are able to see it, but the lower kind of like, I guess, that lower pipe or whatever you want to call it, it's basically, it's powered, it's like spring loaded, so you can actually open this hood from both sides. And as you can see, it's the same on this side with that kind of like, I don't know if, well, it's not a pipe because it's not hollow. I don't know if what you'd call this thing. And this latch does come up and hold it here. So technically you could just take the hood right off on both sides, which does make it a lot easier to work on. It's kind of like the same concept as hood pins. But yeah, I did just want to mention that because that is something that is unique, because you can open up and, you know, prop up this hood on both sides. All right, guys, so now I'm just gonna hop in the driver's seat real quick before we take this thing for a drive. And I did just want to mention the, you know, suicide doors that are on this car. Really cool. And another cool feature is that the ghost flames on each side actually carry on into the door, which is another just really cool detail. And this leather was just the seats, the you know, the surrounding area, the doors, the entire interior was done by the owner. It's very simple. It's not, I don't want to say plain, but it's simple, it's classy, it looks really cool, and there's a bunch of little features that I'm just going to show you guys right now. So first thing you see when you sit in this is the steering wheel, and this kind of 4-spoke design steering wheel is another ode, I guess, to the 1950s and 1960s era race cars at the time. That is one thing that the owner said was popular in that era. And up here you can see this kind of push-pull switch that does control the very little windshield wiper. Now, again, something like this you really don't want to drive in the rain, but the owner actually did say that this has gotten him out of at least one night where he's been caught in the rain with this car. And up here you actually have 3 switches, which on this side controls the driver's side power window. This is the power trunk for the back, actually, and this is the power passenger side window. So yeah, this car does have power windows for both sides, which is really cool. And it actually, what I find probably the coolest is that it does have that power trunk. Now, one thing that you have to be aware of when driving something like this, the visibility is absolute garbage in this car, but it is easy to like kind of just look behind you. I'd rather look behind than rely on this very tiny rear view mirror or even the tiny side view mirrors. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Oh, another pretty unique feature is that, again, the visibility is so bad that when you're driving this thing at night, this little prism thing actually reflects the light from traffic lights. So you can know if you're sitting at a red light or whatever, you can know when it turns green, you know, stuff like that, which is, again, it's just something that's very small, and I had no idea what this was before the owner told me. But again, it's really cool. It's kind of a little safety feature. But yeah, without further ado, we're just going to take this thing for a drive, and I'm going to show you guys my initial reactions. So another thing I did just want to briefly mention before we take this thing out for a drive, in the back, in the trunk here, the owner actually does have a halon fire extinguisher, which he basically described it to me as a gas type fire extinguisher. So in case, you know, God forbid, anything ever did happen to this car, it's not like a foam extinguisher where it would make even more of a mess. So he did just want me to mention that because I guess it's like a unique type of fire extinguisher. But yeah, if any one of you guys are looking to, you know, have a fire extinguisher in one of your cars, whether it's a track car, project car, or something like this that you want to protect, I guess a halon is the way to go because it's gas, it's not liquid or foam or anything like that. Alright guys, so now I'm actually driving this thing, and I have to say this is probably the hardest car. This is probably the hardest car to drive that I've had on the channel yet. Like, the visibility is terrible, but you feel so cool driving this thing. Now I am trying to go very, very easy on it because the wheelbase is very, you know, short, and again, it does have a lot of power and it is very lightweight. So you can definitely, if you're turning the wheel at all and you give it a little bit too much, you can lose control of this thing very quick. Now that being said, it's definitely not super sketchy compared to, I guess, other older vehicles because, again, it's completely rebuilt. The suspension is completely done, and it does have a very tight suspension. So I know probably the audio and the camera is just shaking so much right now, so I apologize for that. But again, that's just how this car drives. All right, now I'm gonna give it a little bit. Yeah, it's not too bad when you give it a little bit. I'm not gonna go full throttle at all, but it definitely pulls amazing. I mean, besides that though, once you get used to it, it's really not that bad. Got a long straightaway, so car's coming this way. I'm gonna wait for him to go, and then I'm gonna give it everything. Yeah, that pulls amazing. I mean, it's so lightweight. I eased into that because I didn't want it to get squirrely at all. I didn't really want to burn rubber, and it goes. Now the owner did say it does take a little while to shift. It does, you know, it definitely lets you know when it does shift. But I mean, besides that, this is very fun to drive. The only problem I have, and I'm sure you guys can see it, is that I'm kind of hunched over. Now I'm 6 foot even, and again, it's just, I guess I'm just not used to it. Maybe if I sit like back a little bit more. All right, now I got another straightaway. Oh man, this thing is so cool. This thing is so cool. I mean, what I like about it the most is that, and the disc brakes really help it stop like great. But what I like about it most, again, is it's completely custom. Someone sees you driving this around town. I mean, if it's, I guess, a normal person not really into cars, they might just think, oh, I guess it's classic hot rod, nothing too crazy. But if someone's actually into cars, if someone's a car enthusiast, they can spot all the different nuances, especially if someone's into, you know, this, I guess, genre of cars. You could definitely tell all the things that are different on it that the owner did. Now, I don't think I mentioned this before, but again, this interior is completely custom. The owner did everything by himself, by hand. Took him just under 10 years to build everything from start to finish. And I mean, I don't know what else you could say about it. I mean, it's just phenomenal. All right, now I got it one last straightaway. Burned a little bit of rubber, but nothing too crazy. I'm done for today. But yeah, another thing that you definitely have to be careful when driving this car. Not that any of you guys, well, maybe some of you guys might drive something like this in the future. For this specific car, I don't know if it's like this for all 34s or whatever, but the gas pedal and the brake pedal are very close. Now, yes, it's an automatic, so I don't have to worry about a clutch or anything. But if you're not careful, I didn't do it before, but if you're not careful, I can definitely see someone grabbing both pedals by accident. But yeah, that being said, guys, that's pretty much just gonna wrap up today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, there's a one-off car, super unique, a lot of fun to film, even more fun to drive. So yeah, if you like this video, definitely be sure to leave a like. Be sure to subscribe down below, and let me know in the comments what you think about this thing. But until the next one, see you guys.